Hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the live virtual town hall from ICAN, Massachusetts, with candidate for the Middlesex 12th, Rick Lipof. Rick, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So first and foremost, for everyone watching, this is a live stream town hall with an ICAN endorsed candidate, Rick Lipof. If you're unfamiliar with ICAN, we are the Israeli American Civic Action Network. We're an advocacy organization that is focused on creating a better America, a more secure Israel, and a stronger U.S.-Israel alliance. With us today, we have our national co-chair, Mr. Robert Meyer. Robert, you want to say hello real quick?
Hello to everybody. Hello.
Great, thank you. And then also we have community members, Lital Asher Dotan, sorry.
Hello, thank you for hosting me with you.
And we have Yael.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Good evening.
Thank you so much. So as we get started here, first we'll hand the floor over to Robert for some news from ICAN. So Robert, go ahead.
Yes. So last time we met, we had a big education K-12 webinar, and since then a lot has happened. If you remember, there was a bill that was passed at the Senate at the time to add a budget to the education curriculum, specifically about antisemitism. That has passed now the House as well and is waiting for the governor to sign it. We passed to everybody, and we're having it distributed through all of our channels, an action to convince her to sign it quickly, because she has 10 days from the point of passing to either sign it or veto it, and we don't want her to veto it, of course. Additionally, there's been a tremendous feedback to all of the work that we've done together as a community about fighting antisemitism in the schools. Specifically, there was some immediate reaction in Marblehead, where one of the teachers that testified was in, and the school committee there opened an investigation into the school system about antisemitism in their system, about the work environment for teachers, for Jewish teachers. And so we're seeing a lot of activity about that. We're seeing a lot of reactions, both good reactions, some denial by the teachers union, and we're seeing some legal activity where teachers are hiring lawyers now to deal with the problems that they're facing. So we want to thank you all for being engaged. We want to thank you for joining us, because this is important. And as part of our activity, as you can see, we've also dealt with vetting and endorsing candidates for our local elections. And this is what we're here to meet, is one of our endorsed candidates. And I'll give it back to you, Dylan.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So just to explain to everybody our endorsement process, we have a very extensive questionnaire that Rick filled out, and thank you very much, by the way, for being willing to do that for us. It covers several issues, again, following those themes of a better America, which for us means combating anti-Semitism and hate, creating a more tolerant community. Our second pillar is creating a more secure Israel. Perhaps less relevant at the state level, but I think there are some supportive efforts we can do at the state level. And then, of course, strengthening the U.S.-Israel alliance. There's a lot going on between Massachusetts and Israel at the state level, especially in the areas of economic development and other sectors like this. So Rick and all the candidates filled out a questionnaire. They went through an interview process, and a subcommittee of our leadership in Massachusetts deliberated and ultimately selected Rick to be our endorsed candidate. So we thank you very much for engaging in that process and participating and letting the community really know where you stand on issues that are critical to us. So with that, Rick, I think we'll hand it over to you and let you give an opening statement for the group.
Thank you, Dylan, Robert, Yael, Lital. Thank you for having me tonight to allow my introduction to whoever is here to get to know me. First and foremost, take out a pen, everybody, and write this down: 617-817 5956. That is my cell phone number. It is what I have put on a sticky to every piece of literature that I have handed out to 6,000 households. This morning, I finished knocking on every door in the district, and I have left my cell phone and gotten many calls, which have been great. So you got my number. You can call me whenever you want to follow this discussion and continue it if you'd like. I was born and raised in Newton. My parents were born and raised in Brookline. I come from a long line of community activists and people who serve. My mother, just to give you some background, my mother was the rabbi at Temple Ohabai Shalom for 18 years. I was bar mitzvahed at Temple Mishkan Tefillah, only left because my mother got a pulpit. My father was president of JNF New England. My brother Mark founded the first Jewish camp in 100 years, Camp Micah. My grandfather in 1948, coincidentally, founded the largest Jewish cemetery, private Jewish cemetery, Shah Memorial Park, in the East Coast that my family still has ownership today. And the last thing I'll tell you, just to give you my touches with the Jewish community that makes me the Zionist that I am and the person so proud to have the ICAN endorsement. My cousin Jody Kipnis is the founder of the Boston Holocaust Museum that is in the works and underway right now, and they're halfway to their financial goal. The museum will be at the right next to the State House, and I'm proud. My wife and I are going to be helping her along the way with that. So it is in my DNA, the Jewish community, and I would like nothing more than to get to the State House and be the conduit for state government for my Jewish community. So that is who I am. That is a little bit background. Graduated University of Wisconsin in 1987. Spent some time in New York, but have always been in Newton. 22 years I've been a city councilor, vice president of the council the last 4 years, chair of most of the major committees along the way. And I've always tried to bring disparate groups together to find a way to solutions and to get to yes. And that's who I am, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have tonight.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So just for everyone watching, whatever platform you're on, you can leave comments. So if you're on YouTube, feel free to comment, Facebook or LinkedIn, and we will put them on the screen. First, though, we will take questions here from our panel, starting with Robert. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick, so I have a couple of questions for you. You've been, like you mentioned, you've been in the council for quite a bit. And my first question to you is, what have you done as a councilor to fight anti-Semitism and hate in the city? Because as we've seen it grow, especially in K-12 recently.
Yes.
I'm really interested in that.
Well, I've got two instances that come to mind most recently. I stood with the Asian community. And by the way, I have been endorsed by the chair of the Chinese American Association of Newton recently, which I'm very proud of. I stood with our Asian community during COVID when that ridiculous blame for COVID and the link to China. And we had some hate incidences that were terrible, and we had a rally at City Hall, and I attended to show my support. Most recently, or actually this was before, everybody should know about the mapping project. This is a BDS initiative that mapped out on a Google map literally everywhere Jewish organizations and leaders of Jewish organizations lived. A very Nazi-era kind of thing. Go get them. Here's where they live. We were horrified. I was vice president, the president, Susan Albright. We wrote a letter together and sent it to the Globe for denouncing the mapping project. And we were able to get 23 of 24 of our city councilors to sign on. And that's the kind of leadership I'm going to bring at the State House when things like that happen.
23. Who's the 24th?
that was Bill Humphrey that decided he didn't want to sign it. That is one of the three of us who are running.
So yeah, so just to be clear to our audience who are watching, Rick has two opponents. One of them chose not to condemn this initiative. So thank you, Rick, for taking the lead on that and making a difference there. Lital, I think you're next. Go ahead.
Yeah, so on the positive side, being Israeli, I really care about the connection between US and Israel. And I'm curious, Rick, if any steps or what's your take on how on the state level, being a state rep, will you be able to strengthen those relationships between Massachusetts, US in general, and Israel?
It's another seat at the table I would love to have. I'm very proud of the past two governors that took some time to get a direct flight from Boston to Israel. So necessary with all of the collaborations that are going on in Cambridge, with pharmaceutical companies and high-tech companies. Some of the greatest minds and the biggest innovation has come out of Israel. And to have a direct line to Massachusetts, to be able to foster that business relationship and all of the income and tax revenue that it brings, and the pride to be able to help Massachusetts have that working relationship with Israel. It's already underway. It's here, and I'd love to be a part of it and help foster the relationship in the future in any way I could at the State House.
Fantastic, thank you. One of the things, just to follow up, one of the things that we see, just to add on to Lital's point there, in this post-10/7 environment is an effort to limit those connections or to prohibit those connections, and even targeting Israelis as a national origin. Is that something that you have witnessed, and I guess how would you deal with that as a member of the State House?
Well, as you see, when things aren't happening the right way, we can legislate, can't we? We can legislate anti-Semitism curriculum being mandated in our schools. If it's not going to happen the right way, if it's not going to organically happen, then we have to take action through legislation.
Right.
So, I see all over Jewish organizations being treated differently, Jewish businesses being treated differently. People who rise and have power at the State House can make a difference and can lead on legislation. And I would do whatever necessary when I saw any roadblocks, any changes with doing business with Jewish people or businesses. I would be making a lot of noise about it, Dylan.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're next.
So I have a couple of questions. I'll start with the first one, prepared ahead of time. So will you work to ensure that Holocaust education is robust and accurate in Massachusetts schools? And I want to add to that I'm a second generation to the Holocaust. The family of my father was almost all of them assassinated in the gas chambers. So it's really important to me, and I really believe it's very important that the future generation will study about the horrors of the Holocaust in depth to make sure that another Holocaust don't happen again.
Absolutely. I agree with your statement 100%. And I believe that part of the anti-Semitism curriculum that I hope that the governor is going to sign is deeply rooted in getting the history right and spending a lot of time on what the Holocaust was and never again. I mean, I have heard from parents that the Holocaust is a day in a whole month of studying World War II. That's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. I don't remember it that way because I went to Hebrew school and we spent a lot of time talking about the Holocaust. But in our schools, we must do that. So I am energized by the fact, and I hope we get the governor to sign it, that curriculum is going to happen. The governor also last week created an anti-Semitism task force. I hope everybody saw that. And that is very promising to what you want to do and what I want to do. You know, as a city councilor, I had zero control, vote, seat at the table with what goes on in our schools. But at the State House, I'm going to have a little bit more of a voice, a lot more to say. And as you can see, we can legislate across the state for all school departments and not just let them go on their own, because not every town and not every school does things the same way. So if we have to mandate, unfortunately, if we have to mandate Holocaust education at the state level, it should be done.
Dylan, we have a question from the audience that actually anticipated my second question, so maybe we can bring it up. Thank you, Debbie, for this question. Rick, so you know the Massachusetts Teachers Association in recent months, I mean since October 7th, took a terrible approach towards Israel, towards the Jews, you know, towards the conflict. I mean, blatant, open anti-Semitism. And so the question that Debbie's asking is, what's your position about it? What you can do? That's also my question. I will just add another question, which has to do more generic, just because we care about education. Is what was your position about the strike in Newton, the teacher strike in Newton that really disrupted our lives quite a bit?
Okay, I'll start with the strike and I'll take it to the MTA. The strike, I just want everybody to know, 23 of the 24 counselors stayed on the sideline. And the reason is that we don't have a vote or a seat at the table. Bill Humphrey went down there and grandstanded, and that's why he got the MTA and the Newton Teachers Association endorsement. And I didn't want it. When I saw what they did with that how to not be anti-Palestinian seminar, I was so disgusted. When they interviewed me for the endorsement, I was very honest and clear about a lot of what I believe about our schools and how we should support our teachers. And I think they liked what I had to say. But when they asked me, do you have any more questions at the end? I did ask, what was that about? And it's absolutely abhorrent what they're doing, what they did with that. And they're really overstepping and have no place to do that kind of thing. But back to the strike, we do not stick our head into the room when two people are negotiating and give our opinion. We needed to leave them alone. I will tell you, I wanted the kids back at school. I didn't want the strike. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of blame to go around. But what angered me the most, and this is the truth, I believe, the Newton Teachers Association, the Mass Teachers Association, and the National Teachers Association used our children as pawns to put a spotlight on them not wanting a strike to be illegal. They want to break that law. And they literally used our children after the time they were out for COVID. To knock them out of school for 2 weeks was unconscionable. I saw it happen. People flew in from California from the National Teachers Association. The head of the union started at 20% for an increase, which he knows wasn't going to work. There's blame to go around. But I was disgusted with the whole thing. But as for the MTA wading in to Middle East politics, they have no place for that. They should not be steering education about the Middle East to where they think it should be. And as for what I can do at the State House, if I was there right now, I would have co-sponsored that bill with Senator Villas. I would be doing everything that's underway right now. I don't think that the union's pretty autonomous, and I don't think I could do anything to them. But what we would do is signal our dismay with what they're doing. by the legislation that we're pushing forward. The union can't say what is taught in the schools, but the state legislature can demand that curriculums are.
Thank you. We don't hear you, Dylan.
Sorry, here I am. You would think by now after COVID, we would all learn that. So I did just want to show this just to Leah, who put this up. You answered the question, but I just want to give some airtime to this. So thank you, Leah, for submitting this question as well. Lital, I think you're next, and you have a question about BDS.
Yeah, so going back to, doing business with Israel and kind of promoting this bilateral things, we've seen the increase in BDS movement, the call to boycott, destitute from Israeli businesses. Will you support any specific legislation or any actions to counteract it on the state level? Any ideas of what can be done? And this is harmful for Massachusetts businesses. We've seen disruption to some businesses going on, so it's definitely top of mind to many of us.
And I do just want to add too, Lital, to that point that, we have a lot of Israeli-owned businesses in Massachusetts. So ultimately, it's not just about hurting the state of Israel, but it's about creating a discriminatory business environment for our Israeli community that happens to be immigrants living in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I just wanted to add that in there as well.
Absolutely. The BDS movement, I denounce it at the dinner table, dinner parties, and with anybody who will listen. It's insidious. It's anti-Semitic. And I will, I'm hoping I don't have to help with legislation. But if it's necessary, the business community, Jewish business community comes to us and says that this is has risen to a point where businesses are being harmed. Absolutely, I would get involved. It hasn't, to my knowledge, it hasn't risen to that. The fear now with the increase in anti-Semitism and calls from certain organizations and people to stop doing business and to divest and sanction. I'd be on the front line of fighting that and calling it out for what it is.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you. And then maybe we'll go next to Yael. I think you have a question about public safety.
Yes. Second question is, so will you support policies to enhance the security of Jewish communities in Massachusetts following the October 7th attack by Hamas? And I will add to that we have seen recently, I think, steep rise in anti-Semitism to the extent that we do not feel safe anymore. So just the question is, which policies will you support to enhance our security here?
And I think just to sharpen that question a little bit, sorry, Yael, that is both in terms of public safety, in terms of things that are happening around these protests and this sort of the demonstrations that we've seen. But also, I think we need to be forward-looking about the potential. The FBI has been warning about potential terrorist attacks. So I think we have kind of a domestic aspect of that, and then also the potential foreign terrorist aspect.
Well, I support everything. I support everything the federal government and the state government has done so far. It's not enough, but I am grateful at what has been done so far. In the past 4 years, the state legislature has increased, I think, from $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million for synagogue and security. Not enough. And I'll tell you why I know it's not enough. Because my temple had to reach out and raise another $130,000 in order for us to have the kind of security at the front door that made us feel safe. Okay, it's coming out of our pockets. Some money is coming from the federal government. Some money is coming and increasing, but not enough from the state legislature. On top of that, I think that that we have got to find some way to be a bigger player online and counter anti-Semitism in social media. the inaccuracies, the changes of narrative of our history that insidiously gets into our children's minds through their phones. I think we need to put more money towards that and put more time. That's tangential to what we're talking about. But at the State House, I will fight to increase dollars, not only to protect our synagogues, but also to protect places for women's reproductive rights, for clinics that are also under siege with what has happened to Roe. So that is all first and foremost in my mind, and right in my face, as my synagogue has had to raise money each year. My daughter's 23 and 24-year-old. We talk about it all the time. It is so sad that it's a little scary to be Jewish today, that we don't feel as safe. And you've got to look to your leaders to help change that. And I want to be one of them.
Robert, I know you're supposed to be next, but I think maybe we'll move your question to the end.
Sure.
Let's do. Don't worry, Rick. It's not a hard one. It's just a context. It's just a context.
They're all hard, Rick. I'm not asking you easy questions.
You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much. Lital, why don't you go next about discrimination?
Sure. Well, this is a tricky one because I think it's important and nuanced. Do you believe combating anti-Semitism or any form of discrimination inhibits freedom of speech? And do you think that any form of speech should be protected?
That is a tough one. Look, the First Amendment means a lot, but there are certain things that cross the line. There are certain things that, when the FBI hears them, they show up at your door. So there are, I won't even call them grays. There are things that cross the line. Unfortunately, with people who are anti-Semitic, they don't think that singing from the river to the sea is anything but First Amendment right. That screaming intifada and chanting that. I mean, unfortunately, these are people that don't even know what these things mean. And some of them where that is the most infuriating. The one who knows, people who know what they mean. That's scary. I watched the videos just outside in DC. People burning the American flag and raising the Palestinian flag up, putting Hamas on monuments, American monuments, and I cannot believe my eyes at what is going on. So that's First Amendment rights, I guess, and it blows my mind. So what I can do, is try to be a leader in combating this in any way I can. But Lital, you make a point. I mean, with the First Amendment, and yes, that is the basis. Think about how many countries that there is no First Amendment. And if you say something that you don't like, you disappear. So this is something we have to juggle. And you've got to look to your elected officials to make sure that certain things said under the First Amendment are not do not stand.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into that, just a little bit. So some people have said that the IHRA definition stifles freedom of speech. What's your position on that? And do you think we should legislate anti-discrimination law based on that definition?
I don't. For me, it's already out of the gate. It's not even a question. We have many states that have adopted it. Okay, so it's not as if we're trying to give a definition that hasn't already been accepted by how many states?
We're in the 30s now, 30.
Yeah, least. In the 30s. So, I was all in at the beginning, and it's easier to be all in when you can point to that many states that agree that it's a definition. It was long coming. I mean, it's simplistic in its way, but so powerful in its adoption. Easy for you. Yeah.
So one of the things I also just wanted to comment on, as we've advocated over the years for IHRA and different kinds of anti-discrimination laws. By the way, even you mentioned Asian hate. We supported hopefully one of your future colleagues, Bill's last session on that. And it's extraordinary because what we see today when it comes to legislating against anti-Semitism and combating anti-Jewish hate, largely because people don't understand Jewish identity, right? Which is where a lot of ignorance and intolerance and hate comes from. We hear the same rhetoric today that we heard in the 60s when people were opposed to the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s. And it's extraordinary to see people, kind of on the fringes, of course, of the political spectrum, use the same language that those who are opposed to the 1964 Civil Rights Act oppose similar efforts today, simply just to clarify what Jewish identity is. And again, whether it's a religious aspect, cultural, or national origin with regard to our Israeli immigrant community. And by the way, in Massachusetts, you also have ancestry as well as part of the anti-discrimination laws at the state level. So for us, that's a very important thing. And we see the IHRA as a tool to help explain that to people. And from our position, and just for those watching, I want to say that we believe that those who are opposed to IHRA and the codification of IHRA are actually advocating for an exception to national origin discrimination for Israelis, that they would allow that to go through. So that's our position. I just wanted to say that for the record. If you wanted to comment on it, you don't need to comment on it, but if you want to.
I want to just say one thing. In history, we are doomed to repeat it if we do not understand it and grow. When democracy falls, anti-Semitism and hate rises. That's what happened in Nazi Germany, and that's what can happen today. And that's why I'm so proud to run for office and want to serve, because even down at the state level, we have to preserve our democracy. And if we don't, and that falters, that's when hate and anti-Semitism rises. We see it happening right now. It's not funny when people say democracy is teetering with the choices we have. It's serious.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to say, as we begin to wrap up with our formal questions, please, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, or otherwise, go ahead and submit your questions in the comments, and we will put them on screen. Daphne, we see yours. We'll bring it up here in a second. Robert, Yael, I think you are next. Sorry. And you're on mute. There you go. Sorry.
Will you involve constituents in your efforts to support the Jewish community and strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationships? Just adding to that strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationships will get people to know Israel better and its contribution to the world's progress, its contribution in medicine, arts, engineering, social development. So yes, if you can elaborate on the effort.
Did you say will I include individuals?
Constituents.
Oh, constituents, yes. Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I will have an open door policy. I just gave everybody my cell phone number. and I'm going to work one-on-one with anybody who wants to educate me continually to whatever they're going through, to whatever the Jewish community is going through, to whatever the Israeli community is going through. I say it over and over again because, in my opening, I wanted to tell you who my family is, because that's who I am. And it would be the greatest joy to be the conduit in state government for ADL, CJP, JCRC, ICAN, ICA, everybody. That would be one of the joys of doing the job.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we're advocating for is, a lot of the the larger organizations, many of which have been around for over 100 years, very, very focused on an American perspective, American Jewish perspective. And so, and here you have three immigrants from Israel. And so we're very focused on ensuring that the immigrant Jewish community also has a voice.
Absolutely. That's why I'm here and why I so wanted your endorsement, because this is a community that I want to focus on as well. Absolutely.
Thank you. Maybe Robert, want to do Daphne real quick before we do yours?
Let's do Daphne. Definitely. She has a very technical question. It's actually a good question.
Hopefully it's okay. Let's see. So Daphne asks, is it possible to legislate a separation between local and state dues for teachers? Right now, teachers pay for both the town, I guess the town union and the MTA.
I have no idea. Okay. Absolutely none. That's not in my wheelhouse. I don't know. I have no touches with the unions and their structure. And I'm not on the school committee or, work for the school department. So I have no clue about this at all.
So
but, what I would love is for Daphne to give me a call and explain to me why this is important. I assume they're being double hit, and to explain it to me. And I would talk to the superintendent of schools or talk to the head of the teachers union in Newton, and I would follow through and get an answer on this.
Thank you. By the way, for those watching, at ICAN, we've done a lot of these interviews. And for me personally and professionally, I've done a lot of these interviews over the years. It's very rare for a candidate to say, I don't know, but I will find out. So thank you for saying that. I think that's very important. And nobody knows everything. And so what we don't like to hear is a candidate give us some sort of word salad that means nothing. So thank you for actually wanting to engage on that question.
Sure.
Thank you. So Robert, I guess we'll go ahead and ask the last question here.
So I have the most important question, right?
Actually, I have one after you too. So go ahead.
Okay. So how's your campaign doing, first of all? And because we want obviously you to win. So how are you doing? How are you differentiating from the other candidates? And what do you need? And are you going to win?
All right. My campaign is going fantastic. As you've already heard, I've knocked on all of the doors with 5 weeks left. I started this campaign with myself and a campaign manager, and now I have a team of 8 working with me full time, and a group of 20 young college students that have contacted me that say they want to work with me all the way till the end. And that's going to be huge. I have raised $74,000. The other 2 have raised $34,000, Bill Humphrey, and Greg has raised $54,000, but $15,000 is a check written out of his pocket. Every one of my donations is from individuals, not from myself. What's most important is with 5 weeks left, how much money do we each have in our accounts? Bill has $34,000, Greg has $14,000, and I have $45,000. That money allows you to send mailers out, to do phone banking, to do media online, all of the things that I have all the money to do. But still, at the end, I'm going to ask everybody, because campaigns take money and donations are important, ricklipof.com. And you could always use a little bit more, but I have more than the 3. I have endorsements from Deb Goldberg, the state treasurer. I have the only statewide elected person in the race. I have Mayor David Cohen, the former mayor of Newton. And if you look at the endorsement pages for the 3 of us, you will see that Bill has unions and no humans. You will see that Greg has the anti-development group, a bunch of people that he never served with. All of my endorsers have served with Bill, me, and Greg, and have all endorsed me. I find these things to be very powerful. Just today, I received the endorsement of Gail Spector, the former editor of the Newton Tab, when we had a newspaper. Deb Crossley, former city councilor from Ward 5, which is Bill's ward. Cheryl Kalis endorsed me, the outgoing president at Temple Emmanuel. And so many more. It's just every day people are calling and they're watching the debates and they're hearing what's going on and they're jumping on to my campaign. If you drive through Newton and Brookline, you'll see I've done quite well with the signs. So what I'm doing here is on September 3rd, I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to say, I did absolutely everything I could to win. And that's where my campaign is at. You can always use a little bit more money. I would always love to have anybody's endorsements. On my website, ricklipof.com, there's a page where you can join the campaign in one of many ways by clicking some boxes. I would love to have you. This is really important. This is really important. Bill Humphrey is somebody who could benefit from having Greg Schwartz and Rick Lipof in the same race. And it's really important to get behind one candidate and go hard to make sure that I'm the one who gets in and is being supported by your community as well as others. Sorry for the long answer.
No, so it's good, and it moves us right into the I think the most important question, which is, what are all of the things we can do to help as us as the organization and also as the community on the ground?
The two best things that you can do is obviously get behind my candidacy by doing two things. Making a donation of any size. The number of donations is watched by everybody to make a donation. But most important, I'd love you to reach out to your friends and your family in Newton and Brookline. And it doesn't matter if they're in the district or not, because they may know people who are in the district. And send an email and say, I've met Rick, and I think he's the right choice. And here's why. Point them to ricklipof.com. You can read my priorities. You can see who's endorsing me. You can read about my history. It's the time now. This week is when the mail-in ballots come to your home. 50% of the electorate is going to vote by mail. So starting Monday through Friday, if you started blasting out to your family and friends, you will hit the people who are going to be filling those in and sending them back. And then the second wave would be the week before the election on September 3rd. Whoever wins on September 3rd walks in November because there's no Republican in the race. So that's it. The day after Labor Day is Election Day. It's terrible. So we've got to create awareness and use, the blogs that we're on, the threads, and email to reach out to our friends and family. I have 5 times the amount of experience. I've raised more money. I've got a great ground game. We can do this. I can do this, but I'd like to do it with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Robert, Yael, or Lital, did you want to make any final comments?
Just want to thank you, Rick. Thank you for being really open to get open-ended questions. You don't know what's going to come up, and it was very good. And I want to thank the audience also for for being engaged and asking those questions. There are some good questions there.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Lital?
I appreciate the openness and candor.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, again, thank you, Rick, so much for joining us. It's an honor to endorse you and to support you. We will remind our community in Middlesex 12th that ballots sounds like are coming on Monday through the next week, and then again prior to Labor Day. So we will remind our folks, and for everyone watching, again, support Rick, visit his website, and tell all your friends and family.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.